low carb, slow carb, high carb, no carb. What should we be eating? Are carbs good for you? Are they bad for you? Many of you know that I lead a low carb lifestyle, but what I'm going to tell you next might shock you. Carbohydrates are the single most important thing that you can be eating for health and for weight loss. So why am I telling you this? Because all plant foods are carbohydrates. And so what I'm talking about are the good carbs. I like to call them the slow carbs. These are the carbs that don't spike your blood sugar. Fruits and vegetables, and even nuts and seeds. These are the carbs that have a low glycemic index. And what does that mean? It means they don't spike insulin, they don't spike blood sugar. And why are they so important? Because they contain lots of molecules called phytochemicals. These types of foods will fill your body with fiber. Basically, these are the whole foods, the unprocessed foods. You have to think about how many steps it takes to get it from the farm to you. So the less steps, the better. So if it took a lot of steps and processing to get to you, then that's not good. You want to go for the carbohydrates that you don't have to unwrap. They don't come in a box, they don't come in a wrapper. You're just getting them from mostly fruits and vegetables. So when it comes to the vegetables, you want to go with the non-starchy vegetables. And when you're leaning in towards the fruits, you want to go for the ones that have that low glycemic index, and those would be the berries. So by volume, most of what you consume will come from carbs, but calorie-wise, most of your calories will come from fats and protein. Just like not all calories are created equal, all carbs are not created equal. The ones you really want to look out for, I think you probably know, are the breads and the pastas and the processed foods and the grains. It's okay to invite these things into your diet, but just on a rare occasion. And why am I talking about carbs so much? Well, my final project for my last class in sports and exercise nutrition, I had to write up a program for somebody. And I did it for one of my clients, and I had to pick an event that she was going to train for. And this is a client that has been on a low carb diet for a long time. And this is a client that I talk to a lot about a slow carb diet. So she's been eating this way for a while. She's been training this way for a long time. And so I know her body is accustomed to getting the work done on this low carb diet. One of the things we talked about a lot in this class was the nutrient timing system. And that consists of 3 different phases. There's the energy phase, the anabolic phase, and the growth phase. I almost forgot. So energy, anabolic, and growth, which basically just comes down to when you want to be taking in certain macronutrients and micronutrients. So keep on watching and you'll see what I came up with for this particular client. Hello and welcome to my final project presentation. My name's Regan and today I am going to be going over the necessary nutritional approaches for one full cycle of the nutrient timing system. This is my client Kelly, and she is extremely fit and strong. She eats a whole foods diet with a strong emphasis on protein. This summer, she'll be climbing the 2nd highest summit of the Wasatch Mountains in Utah. It is called Mount Timpanogos, and it comes in at 11,749 feet. And there are 2 different trailheads, and the trailheads start at around 7,000 feet. So you can see from this slide that this is going to be a day of endurance when the average person comes in at over 8 hours to complete it. So one of the first things I came up with for her was her protein target. I've always talked to her about trying to get at least 30 grams with each meal, and that would be 4 meals a day. But the calculation that I decided to use with her would be 1.4 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And I will link a video up top on how you can figure out exactly how much protein you need on a daily basis. Let's start by talking about protein. I used the athlete's suggestions from the International Society of Sports Nutrition position stand, which is 1.4 to 2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. And you can see after some simple calculations that she came in at 92.4 to 132 grams of protein per day. You'll see that for the next few slides, the source I used was the Chronometer app. If you don't have that downloaded on your phone, I would highly recommend it. And I will be showing you all her micronutrients and macronutrients, but one thing that I did not screenshot and put onto my slides is the amount of calories that she takes in. So she's taking in anywhere from 2,000 to 2,200 calories a day. And if you're an active woman who's in her 40s or above, that's a great number. If you are lower than that, then you've probably slowed down your metabolism. And what we should do is what's called a reverse diet to get your body into a fat burning mode so that you can ride through the rest of your life in fat burning mode instead of counting calories and restricted diets. So I will leave another video linked, actually I'll link it down below, and that's all about reverse dieting. And you guys, this really works. You'll never have to count a calorie again. And you'll get to eat way more than what you're eating right now. So not only will that be fun, but you will help your body build more muscle and keep your body from getting sarcopenia or osteoporosis or all those things you do not want as you get older. And let me just point out, when it comes to the micronutrients, the other thing we had to do when writing up a program for one of our clients was make sure they get 4,700 milligrams of potassium a day. And check out the video. I think I did it just last week. I'll link it down below, but it's all on how to get enough potassium. And it was the nutrient that I was actually completely shocked that I was deficient in, because I do eat so many fruits and vegetables, but I came in at less than half of what the RDA suggests. And actually most people do. So we want to really focus on making sure that you get enough potassium. Okay, we're going to go through these next few slides pretty quickly because I want to leave some time to talk about hydration, because that is going to be really important for this event. So please pause the video at any time if you want to get a better look at the slides. But let's start with breakfast. Now we're talking, this is the day before the event. Lunch is at 1 p.m. She'll have a snack at 3 p.m. and then dinner around 6:30. So here are her macronutrients. You can see her protein. She's just slightly below the target. Her target is 92.4. So just a hair short of that. A handful of nuts would have sent her up above her target. I'm happy with her carbs. This is the way she has been eating for a long time. So her body is used to getting most of her carbs from fruits and vegetables. And you'll see that her dinner, she did have a little couscous. So I'm happy with the carbs. I'm also happy with the fats, because most of her fats came from really healthy sources like olive oil and avocados. We look at her highlighted targets, everything looks good, especially her fiber, her iron, and her potassium. As far as vitamins go, she looks great, just slightly low in B1 and B3. Minerals look good. You may have noticed on a previous slide that she's just a hair low on calcium. Carbs are good, lipids are good because they're coming from healthy fats, and protein is good. We're just gonna bump it up a little tiny bit more. Okay, so now we'll get into those 3 phases of the nutrient timing system that I talked about. So number 1 is the energy phase. The energy phase is during your actual workout. During this phase, we want to minimize muscle damage, which is just a natural consequence of strength training. So the nutrient timing system will help you produce the energy for a stronger workout. This is where we want to minimize the muscle damage that just naturally occurs during exercise. But most importantly, during this phase, we want to set the stage for a speedy, healthy recovery. But what exactly happens during this stage when it comes to strength training? Strength training depletes muscle glycogen, stimulates an acute inflammatory response, increases protein breakdown, and causes muscle damage. So proper carbohydrate supplementation during this phase will actually help blunt the rise of cortisol. Pay attention if you are on a no carb diet, because during exercise, we already know that the cortisol will rise, but we want to keep that rise to a minimum. And carbohydrates are one of the ways to keep the cortisol levels low. And the marriage of carbohydrates and protein will offer additional benefits. Okay, so moving on to the nutrient timing system, starting with the energy phase. So this event, most people start at 5 a.m., so before the sun comes up. So she'll be starting the hike at 5 a.m. and then hopefully being finished around 2. It's really important to hydrate properly, especially when you're doing an event like this at high altitude. So as soon as she gets up in the morning around 3:30, 4 o'clock, she is going to start drinking water so that by the time she is starting that hike, she has at least 4 cups in her already. So for the energy phase, we just picked out a lot of easy, packable, not too heavy items that she can carry along in her backpack. Okay, moving on to the anabolic phase. This is known as the most critical phase of the nutrient timing system. So right after a workout, your muscles are in a catabolic state, and what we want is to get them into an anabolic state. But the right food sources have to be provided. And when does the anabolic phase take place? It takes place up to 45 minutes post-workout. So what turns off the catabolic machinery and turns on the anabolic machinery? It's insulin. So that 45 minutes is your metabolic window of opportunity. So what happens if you wait longer than 45 minutes? Well, it shows, lots of studies have shown that if you go 2 hours or longer, it significantly decreases protein synthesis, as well as muscle glycogen replenishment. So during the anabolic phase, we want to make sure we have proper nutrition to blunt the catabolic hormones and stimulate the anabolic hormones. And this will increase blood flow, replenish the muscle glycogen stores, like I said, initiate tissue repair, and reduce muscle inflammation. And one of the best ways to do this is with a carbohydrate and protein in liquid form. If all goes according to plan, she will be done the hike around 2 o'clock. So between 2 and 2:45, she will be in the anabolic phase of the nutrient timing system. In the book Nutrient Timing, they suggested a protein drink during the anabolic phase between 2 and 2:45. So that is my suggestion for Kelly. And lastly is the growth phase. This is the 18 to 24 hour period where most of the muscle gains and muscle strength occur. A high protein diet will stimulate a positive protein and carbohydrate balance, and this will cause a negative fat balance. And then lastly is the growth phase, which is from 2:45 until somewhere around 3 a.m. in the morning. So I put together this plan, but if I'm very realistic about it, she's probably going to go with her friends to the bar that's close by and drink a pint of beer and have a cheeseburger and french fries. And I'm okay with that because it's all about balance and enjoying the things that you love. But if she wants to stick to her really healthy program, which I always do encourage, this is what I suggest for her. And you can see here from her macronutrients and her highlighted targets that she came in at 133 grams of protein, so 1 gram higher than her range, and plenty of potassium. All right, so I know we talked a lot about carbs in the beginning and a little bit about protein and a little bit about fat. And then the last thing I hit during this presentation is hydration and how important that is. And it is especially important for an athlete that lives at high altitude like I do. So check out my tips on how to stay properly hydrated. I was surprised to read this, but physical exertion at high altitude induces sweat rates comparable to those at sea level. What's different is that respiratory water loss is elevated at high altitude. So hypohydration can occur from sweat loss and adaptations to the environment. As we know, body water and electrolyte imbalances are common with any sort of strenuous activity, but even more so at high altitude. It is going to be really important for Kelly to start the day hydrated, because anything above 3,000 feet will affect your hydration needs, your fueling needs, and your exertion. Pre-hydration is so important. I mentioned this earlier, but I want Kelly to start drinking water as soon as she gets up that morning, so that she is starting that hike already hydrated. And it's important for Kelly to stay hydrated throughout this whole hike. She will be using a Camelback hydration pack, and I'm suggesting that every 10 to 15 minutes, she takes a few sips. As the altitude increases, she will be cycling through oxygen faster. So it's really important to know the signs of dehydration. And what's interesting is your thirst cues become less reliable. So it's important to just stay on top of the hydration, whether you feel thirsty or not. I want her to definitely keep track of her sweat rates, because the more she's sweating, obviously the more she needs to keep hydrating. And I suggested that setting a timer on her phone so that she continues to drink regularly, so that she doesn't have to chug at any time. Last but not least, she needs to stay on top of her electrolytes. So my suggestion is that she has 70 ounces of water in her Camelback, and she uses 3 element packets. They have 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 of potassium, and 60 of magnesium. I feel like this is a great plan for Kelly, and no adjustments are needed. The only nutrient difficulties I found were, one, getting high quality protein sources and trying to be creative with that. And then the other thing was the potassium. It is hard to hit 4,700 milligrams of potassium, but we did it. And out of all the phases of the nutrient timing system, I found the energy phase to be the most difficult and the most challenging for this project, because it's such an extended, long endurance event. So I had to be creative when it came to figuring out food sources that were easily packable and non-perishable. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below, and thank you so much for watching. So I hope you enjoyed watching this presentation. What do you think I got? I don't even know yet. Anyway, if you have any questions about a low carb diet or a slow carb diet, which is basically the same thing, I can teach you how to get on the right track with that. Just leave me any of your questions or concerns down below. I'm so thankful that you watched this video today. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, smash that subscribe button, ring that notification bell so you're the first to know when my next video drops. My name's Regan. This is Boom 50 Fitness, your new BFF.